All right, 1 second here. All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. So want to mention something that comes up a lot, but I'll mention again. It's not really, I wouldn't say it's a question. I wouldn't say it's a question per se, but I think it's more of a, I think I would call it more of an observation, right? And that is that anybody, anyone in the process, either of conversion, being a Noahide, JIT, Jew in training, right, as I would call it, or, a returnee to Judaism, right? A Jew doesn't know much about Judaism, coming back, learning about Judaism. I think people have to understand that even though the approach to a potential convert and a returnee to Judaism is very different, right? For potential convert, it's all or nothing. You can't do everything all at once. Otherwise, basically drive yourself nuts, be impossible. For a Jew, we're going to cut them some slack. We're not going to say it's all or nothing, but basically they have to get to the same place, right? They have to eventually become observant, to convert also, right? They have to get to the same place, except that the way to go about it is a little bit different. The approach, we'll say, is very different. Now, based on that, I want to say that, we are all work in progress. No one, starts this process, way up here. Everyone starts at the bottom, some level, right? Some people know more, some people know less. Some people can read Hebrew, some people can't. Some people have learned, read more, some people haven't. A lot of different, there are a lot of different levels, right? There are a lot of different levels. Now, even though there are a lot of different levels, and we understand we're a work in progress, and a person has to grow and has to get to a certain point, again, both a convert or whatever, potential convert, and a Jew have to be at the same place. Some will be at a higher level, some be at a lower level. But the most important thing out of anything in this process is a person has to know where they are. A person has to give themselves or cut themselves, as I would say, a lot of slack. Because imagine, one thing that's very hard for people, I think probably one of the most difficult things besides moving into a community is the fact that they can't read Hebrew. Now, they come out of paganism, they want to, or Christianity or whatever, they finally come to synagogue. They have no idea what's flying. People stand, people sit, they bow, they this, they that. People don't know, right? People don't know, in general, what to do. Frustrating. Can be extremely frustrating. So what's the evil inclination going to say? Evil inclination is going to say, come on, it's too hard. You can't. It's all these different things. It's all these different things combined. They're never going to accept you anyway. Don't even waste your time over here. Whatever, all these things. Right? All these different things. So now, as a person, as they're starting out, the idea may be, I want to do a lot. I want to keep kosher. I want to start, keeping a kosher home. I want to start keeping Shabbos. I want to start doing this. Eventually a person is going to see that if you're doing it by yourself, it's very hard. I mean, for Noah, I'd multiply that by infinity, right? Extremely difficult because they don't have so much ritual. There's no prayer to speak about. In other words, not necessarily something fixed, even though, there is a Noahide prayer book and this and that. But in general, there's lack of a community, which, we are working on. Slowly, but, there's lack of a community, a lot of it's virtual there, there are a lot of issues, but at the same time, people want to jump in head first. So the idea is very good. Problem is, in practical terms, you try and jump levels before you're ready, it's not going to happen. That's the first thing. Second thing is is that a person, the Mission Pirkei Avos says in Ethics for Our Fathers, a person has to know their place. They have to know what they have the ability to do, what they don't, what they're ready for, what they're not ready for. Because at the end of the day, if a non-Jew in the process of conversion, let's say they show up to synagogue, they have no idea what's going on, but they're trying to soak it all in. Is that called prayer? They're soaking it in, right? To the best of their ability, etc. Do they know how to say the prayers? No. They know which ones come first? No. Okay, isn't it true, even if they don't, that God knows the thoughts of man? He can put the prayers together in a person's heart? Sure. Right? That's not a question. Right? But a person, let's say a person shows up to synagogue, they have no idea what's going on. Do they have an obligation to praise a Jew? No. They have an obligation to read Hebrew at this point? No. They don't have any obligation. But when they come, they want to get something out of it at their level. Okay. Is there a lot to learn in the process? Yeah. There's protocol, etiquette, what to do. There's a lot to learn. There's no question. But it's like learning how to swim. A person, learning how to swim, they're not going to jump in the deep end first. There's just no way. There's no possible way. If they don't know how to swim, they're jumping in the deep end. They're not going to. They don't know how to swim. Right? But you got to jump in maybe at some point. Okay. So you get a little more acclimated. You go a little further out. A little more acclimated. You go further out. But I can't use swimming as a parable. Why not? Because when it comes to doing things, when it comes to doing ritual, let's say, certainly by Judaism, it's either you do it right or you don't. Right? In other words, you made the right blessing or you made the wrong blessing. Or maybe if I made the wrong blessing, but my statement is true, very good. I fulfill my obligation. I get a C-, but I fulfill my obligation. But at the same time, okay, there are things a person has to, warm up to. Because if you learn all this information, you don't put it into practice, that's a waste. At the same time, a person tries to do everything at once and they want perfection, they're setting themselves up for failure. So you got to take it in sound bites. Sound bites means person wants to go to synagogue, they're allowed to. Right? No question. You have to speak to the rabbi if he allows you to come, okay. But they're allowed to come to synagogue. Now, does that mean you're going to be praying the first time around, with all the intention, according to Kabbalah? No. Second time? No. Third time? 100 times? 1,000 times? No. Right? But you got to start somewhere. Right? A person may say, I'm not ready to go to synagogue. Okay. I'm not ready to start keeping kosher yet. Okay. We're a work in progress. A person should learn. But remember, what's the end game? What's the end game over here? The end game is I want to get to where I need to get to. Right? I need to get to where I need to get to. But that takes time. Now, it's frustrating. Person makes all kinds of mistakes. That's frustrating. Okay. But at the same time, we're a work in progress. You got to get it right eventually. So there's time. Person has time. Part of me would say, you saw the truth. You want to dive into things. You want to learn. You jump full steam ahead. So I think there is what to say. I think that's valuable, in many ways. On the flip side, it's like jumping into deep water. Some things you might not be ready for. You might not be consistent. You can't do things all the time. You forget to make blessings. You don't go to synagogue 3 times a day, right? It's just not on your horizon at the moment. Certainly if you're a guy, right? It doesn't necessarily apply to a woman here, right? But in general, even, people say, Noahide laws, there are only 7 laws. Yeah, there are 7 laws and there's an umbrella, right? They're general. The general laws that come under this umbrella, get about 65, 70, give or take, and people make the mistake also and say, well, that's so easy. Okay, but there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of detail what a non-Jew has to keep anyway. Not only that, there's plenty want to learn. Plenty want to learn. Right. So therefore, even if it's more difficult, let's say, there are no set holidays and different things. How is the person allowed to tap in? Can they tap in? Okay, these things need to be learned. They need to be, understood. What do people want more than anything else? They want everything now. We live in a society of instant gratification. They want it yesterday. I wanted, person ordered something, from Amazon. They wanted it 3 days ago, a week ago. They say, listen, you got Amazon Prime. Very good. You get it in a day or two. Right? No, I want it now. I want it done now. What they're going to say, sir, you got to have a little bit of patience. We'll give you 1 or 2 days because you have Amazon Prime. Okay. If you don't get it within 2 days, it's on us. Fine. But everybody wants, I should say everybody, a lot of people want to jump in, head first. Now that is meritorious. I'm not going to say not. I think that is meritorious. They have the drive. They have the desire. That's not such an easy thing because, it can fizzle out. A person can get burnt out after a while, even a short while, because it's just, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. I would say for Noah, it's a little bit easier. It's less pressure. It's a lot less pressure. Right. But nonetheless, they have things they need to do. They have to be moral. Should they be learning the laws of Lashon Hara? Maybe they're not obligated. But I think there are a lot of things, moral imperatives they need to work on. And they should learn Musar, no question. Even if certain things don't apply, because there are a lot of things that a non-Jew shouldn't do, that even if they're not obligated, they shouldn't do it. So it's not good as a moral imperative. But people ask, but if I can do it, what's the problem? You're right. Maybe there isn't a problem. Right? Maybe there's no problem at all. Maybe there's just an issue. There's a moral issue. I'll give an example. Right? Let's say, let's say there's an issue, tax issue. So let's say person had an issue, and they get around it because there's a legal loophole. Legal. 100% it's legal. Now, if it's legal, there are 2 ways to look at it. Right? This is what accountants do. They find loopholes. So I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of them, they find loopholes that are legal. That even if you get audited, it's legal. Now, the question is, do I have to go beyond that? Someone's going to say, if it's legal, it's legal. Well, why do I have to think twice? Right? What? So, but the other side of the issue is, okay, it's legal. It's on the books. But who says morally it's a good thing to do? But the other side is going to say, what do I care? It's moral or not moral? It's on the books. If it's on the books and according to Torah, it's permissible. Not everything on the books, according to secular law, is necessarily permitted, by Jewish law. We may be more stringent in secular law. Many cases we are when it comes to monetary cases, right? That's what, we're delving into now, in the class on the Noahide laws. But, we're more stringent in many ways. Now, let's say that Torah law and secular law would agree. Let's say they would agree a certain thing is permissible, right? Even if it's permissible, what if morally it just doesn't smell right? But it's okay. People do it. Nobody gets caught. Nobody gets audited for it. Not a problem, right? There's something else going on, right? Non-Jews also have a moral obligation. Now, there's some things I would say, or probably many things, that when it comes to moral obligation, it doesn't mean they have to. It's called what we call a moral imperative. Spoke about a lot of these cases. I did when I did a video on Tanakh Talk, spoke about it. Spoke about Noahide laws in general, and then spoke about, a bunch of things that could certainly be moral imperatives that, according to Torah, they're not liable for, but morally speaking, it's a good thing not to do, right? One example, just throw out one example: non-Jews are not liable for speaking Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara does not make logical sense in general. Why? One very simple reason: if I know things to be true, right? Let's say 100%, this thing is true against a certain person, right? So the Chofetz Chaim says, even though it's 100% true, you have certain conditions you're allowed. You have to go through certain conditions in order to repeat it. But you're going to say, it's all over the internet, it's all over the news, everybody knows about it, and we'll throw out a caveat, it's okay. Everybody knows. It's true. Right? Let's say it's proven to be true. Not such a simple thing, but let's say it's proven to be true. Now, if I would ask most people, Jew, secular Jew, non-Jew, and say, listen, I got this thing that's 100% that everybody knows. Everybody knows about it. Am I allowed to repeat it without any condition? What's everybody going to say? 100%. Everybody's going to say, what's the problem? Everybody knows about it. If everybody knows about it, you're not causing any damage. Everybody knows. Everybody in the world knows. You're not worried someone, I don't know, in Timbuktu doesn't know about it. You tell someone, they find out about it. You're not worried about that. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. So 100% people are going to say, what's the problem? Right? There's no issue over here. But if you were to ask, in general, is it a good thing to speak badly against someone else? Now, some people would say, you know what? Maybe it's not, but they deserve it. Look what they did. They caused me damage. They, did whatever. I heard through somebody, they said something negative against me. So now I'm rip-roaring mad. Right? Something like that. Now, a lot of people would probably say, I can say what I want. Even gets back to them. So people would be so brazen and say, I'd say in front of their face if they were here. Well, let's say they're not that brazen. It doesn't cause the other person any damage. So they're going to be justified. Why are they going to be justified? They're going to say, this person has it coming, right? They're venting their anger, right? So someone will bring up a case, I'll just throw this out there also, that let's say someone goes to therapy. So therapist, needs to get to the nitty gritty, get to the brass tacks, what's going on with the person, try and help them. Now, what if that person says, yeah, this person did this, or this person did that? Is there a liability of Lashon Hara? So there's no liability here. Why? Because they're trying to help the person. But when they give over the information, there are certain things, they can't lie, they can't exaggerate, right? Obviously that happened to them. They saw it firsthand, right? If they didn't see it firsthand or hear it firsthand, then something like that, they can't believe it 100%, right? They're allowed to guard themselves against it, maybe warn people against it, right? But they're not allowed to believe it 100%. But let's say they had all the conditions met. So that they're allowed. They're allowed to get it out, to get to what the source of the issue is, right? That's not a problem of Lashon Hara, per se. So in certain cases, okay, right? But there are other things you have to meet certain conditions, even if I know it's 100% true. So something like that does not make any sense logically. You ask anybody, everybody knows about it. It's not a lie, it's true. The Lashon Hara is even for something that's true. All the more so if it's a lie, right? If someone's libeling them, they're, motzi shemra, as we call it, causing them a bad name, right? Telling things that they've done and this and that and, causing them damage. Lashon Hara in general, even if it doesn't cause a person damage, which is hard to imagine, but let's say even if it doesn't cause them damage, still going to be forbidden, right? So what's the point? So the point is, most people would probably say, with a caveat, with the but, they would probably say, yeah, it's not a good thing to backstab someone. It's not a good thing to speak badly against someone, but they're going to say they deserve it. They have it coming. Look what they did over here. So what's our answer? Our answer is the ends don't justify the means. Just because someone did something doesn't give you the right necessarily to tell someone else, unless it's under certain circumstances. Or let's say a person is known to have caused damage in certain areas, right? If it's known, very good. If it's not known, someone could get duped. You can warn someone. You're allowed to warn someone. But again, certain conditions. You have to know for a fact. You have to have seen it yourself, right? If you haven't seen it yourself, you can say, I didn't see it, but you're warning them because other people have seen it or whatever the case is. So that you're allowed to take precaution with, 100%. Believe it 100%? No. But nobody in their right mind, in the secular world is going to even understand where this comes from. Because they're going to say, everybody knows it. It's not causing him damage. And if he was there, I'd say it in front of his face. Like, I would say it anyway. Again, I don't know how brazen some people are. Some people are, some people aren't. Whatever it is, right? But who says that's a good thing? That's a good thing to do. That's good for the soul. I mean, all talk radio is, like that. All sports talk radio is like that. Demolishing athletes and coaches and decisions and this. It's all Lashon Hara. The news, all Lashon Hara, right? Make a person better? That's what we always have to ask. If I'm in this situation, does it make me closer to God or not closer to God? Right? I don't want to lose sight of what we spoke about before, right? And that is that no matter where a person's holding, in whatever process, again, it's a JIT, Jew in training, it's a Noahide, it's about tshuva, as a returnee to Judaism, first of all, you have to know your place. Second of all, knowing your place doesn't mean you answer every heretic what they say, because you don't always know the information either. You don't always know how to give over information if you know the information. But at the same time, we're quick. We want to show people the world and have them understand it. Can't. People aren't going to be so interested. Can't ram it down their throats. And sometimes you say things, you want to awaken spirit in somebody. You say something, doesn't go anywhere. And you get made fun of, right? It happens to me all the time. People say things. What are you going to do? This is what the Torah says. Like someone will say, I think I mentioned this. I mentioned last week. Someone will say, "Well, we're a blood relative." Someone of the opposite sex. Are you going to deny me the fact of giving you a hug and a kiss? Yes. Sorry. What can I do? Right. My answer was, my wife. You can hug and kiss as much as you want. So they asked again. They asked the second time. So I gave the same answer. I'm not going to repeat what the person said. Right? Doesn't matter what the person said. I took it in stride. Because I was expecting it. So what am I going to answer back? What am I going to answer back? Right? So okay. So something like that. You're not putting a stumbling block in front of someone. They blaspheme. They say other things. Their fault, not my fault. Right? I didn't want to say, by the way, if I did hug you, I have to kill you. Right? That's what some rabbinic authorities hold. That even shaking a woman's hand that you're not allowed to, you have to give up your life for. Yeah, tell that to someone who has no clue about anything. He's gonna laugh and go, come on. Yeah, person's 89 years old. Like, come on, like, what do you think? Like, what are you thinking? What are these crazy rabbis thinking? Let them talk. It doesn't matter. Younger people, you can say, yeah, I only shake hands with ugly women. Right? That goes, that can go over for a certain amount. Or you can bow like the Japanese, have your hands behind your back so they can't grab you. Can't grab your hands, whatever. Okay? Right? Or you just say, listen, for religious reasons, I can't shake your hand. When it comes to family, these things don't go, they don't go. They're just like, what are you talking about? I'm 75 years old. I'm 68 years old. Like what in the world? Like, they're not going to get it. And in 10 lifetimes, they're not going to get it. Okay? So what do? You sit there and wait for the comment. Because it's going to come. And I'd love to say, and these conversations go nowhere, so I don't even bother. But I'd love to say if I was a Sikh, I wore this funny thing on my head and dressed up in whatever, you'd probably respect that to a certain extent. Right? And if I said, sorry, I can't do it because, my religious, whatever. I mean, maybe they make fun of it also, could be. But I'll tell you one thing, they'll never make fun of. Someone goes to a Japanese restaurant. You go to a Japanese restaurant, a lot of times, what are they going to tell you? You have to take off your shoes, and you sit on a pillow. You don't even sit on a table, right, in these places. So you're going to say, I have rights. You can't do that. That's discrimination. No, you're going to gladly you understand the protocol. You're gladly going to take off your shoes. Why? Because you want to eat there. And if you don't take off your shoes, you ain't eating there. Let's say that's the protocol. Are they ever going to make a complaint? Never. Never. They have to have respect for. They have to have respect for it. Food. Of course they have respect. Oh, but an Orthodox Jew won't shake hands, give a hug to a relative 75 years old. That they don't respect. That they don't respect. Go figure. Okay. Is there any way to explain it? No. You're going to come off smelling like a rose? No. Okay. Right? But a person has to realize you put yourself in that situation. That's the way it is. That's the way it's probably going to be. I'm not going to say 100% and everyone's going to do it. Depends. It definitely depends. But the point I just want to get back to, is the fact a person has to be ready. Now, a person can say, well, I'll never be ready. I'm always going to make mistakes, this and that. Okay. Right. But, a person has to feel comfortable with themselves and what they're willing to take on. Certain things are easier to take on. I think, because no one sees it. So if no one sees it and a person wants to do it, it's not an issue. Right. It'd be much less of an issue. It's not, I was just, I was saying to my wife the other day, when the synagogue, a mile, 1.2 miles from my mother's house. I was like, whatever, 10-minute drive. 10-minute drive, let's say. Right? It's about 25-minute walk, give or take. So some of my wife, what could happen? What in the world, what could happen if I walk? Okay. So I have my hat and jacket, my towels and fill and walk in the morning, let's say, early in the morning, like unless I'm worried about, anti-Semite's going to shoot me or whatever, but my wife said, you're a target because that's the way you look. That's the way, I'm not going to change the way I dress. Right. I'm not going to, I'm not going to go incognito. Okay. If it's raining, I put on a coat, whatever, but I definitely looked the part, no question. So what are you going to do? She's like, well, you looked the part. I'm like, what do you mean I looked the part? Look the part. Right? Could something happen? I'm not, not worried about it. If I'm in New York, maybe I think twice, 3 times, look all around because things happen there all the time. Right? Florida, I haven't heard too much, too many things happening, but whatever. We're targets. That's what we are. The way we look represents who we are. How we dress represents who we are. Does that mean someone's going to dress like me? No. Right? A person has to feel comfortable in doing certain things. Right? I know people that say, yeah, I fit in more with this type of community. Black hat, coats, this. Okay. Not everyone's going to fit that bill. Right? Yeah. A person has to see where they fit in. I'm not saying someone should just change their wardrobe overnight, certainly for a guy and this and that. There are issues. A person has to feel comfortable with what they're doing. Again, no hides have a lot more leeway. Right? Because there's less ritual, there's less expectation, so to speak. But if we look the part, we're fair game, no question. That's why we have to be a lot more careful. We're outside. Way we drive, way we stand in line, in a post office or other things. All you have to do is one thing wrong. One little thing wrong. And people hammer it. Oh, Orthodox Jews this, Orthodox Jews that. Yeah. We're held to a higher standard. Yeah. So my point is that a person, first of all, you have to be aware of the responsibility. And the second thing is, whatever you're going to take on, take it in sound bites. Do not try and bite off more than you can chew. Because if you do, you're going to fall very quick. Inconsistency, you can't do it. It's too hard. It's this. I forget. I make mistakes. Evil inclination got a million ways. To chop someone up over here. So we got to do the best to our ability. You need a person that makes a mistake. Somebody say something, you're right. I made a mistake. I'm a JIT. I'm a work in progress. I got to work on consistency. Someone hammered me years ago about that. You do this, but you don't do that. And what was my knee-jerk reaction? Knee-jerk reaction is, what do you know about Judaism? Like, who are you to say anything? That's the wrong answer. Right? That's coming out very defensive. What's the right answer? The right answer is right. I have to get to this point. I'm a work in progress. I'm not there yet. I want to be there. That's my end goal. That's the end game. I want to get there, but I'm not there yet. That they're not going to have anything to say. That they'll have respect for. Deep down, they'll have respect. Because you'll say you're a work in progress. You'll admit you have failures. You do things you shouldn't do. Right? Let's say. And they'll respect that. Or they might say, oh, isn't God going to get you? Probably. But there's repentance. We're not perfect. But a perfect person has to realize you can't do everything at once. And sometimes it's better to take things in sound bites. Right? For a guy, go to synagogue 3 times a day. Okay. You got to plan your day, this and that, but it's intense. In the morning, it's early. Prayers are long. It take 45 minutes. Mondays, Thursdays, take an hour. Whatever people say, prayer is very fast. It's daunting. Afternoon, evening, very easy. 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Right? But it's very daunting. When I tell someone to go to synagogue 3 times a day, no. And they're ready. Maybe you should go once a day, once every couple days. Right? Shabbos, I think, is a good thing to do. Just to see people in synagogue and be part of it or whatever. During the week, you got to cut yourself some slack a little bit. You got to know what you're ready for. It's good, I would think, in general. It's good to jump in full steam ahead, but guess what? The steam goes out very quick. It can go out very quick. Right? The person has to be careful. They just have to know. They just have to know. They just have to know what they're able to do. Right? That's what I would say. Somebody asks, what if someone knows they're doing bad, but you still choose to do it? It's lashon hara to speak about such a person. Interesting question. Person knows they're doing something bad, but they still choose to do it. Now that's something. Now, if that person, and this gets a lot more complicated, which I don't really want to get into because it's a very complicated thing. If that person is really considered evil, it depends what they're doing, right? Depends what they're doing over here. Any sin a person does, they draw themselves further away from God, for sure. The question is, does that make them a heretic or not? So the Rambam has a whole list of who's considered a heretic, what level and different things, right? So in this case, let's say a person is considered evil. I'll make it easy. I'll make it very easy. A Jew marries a non-Jew. A Jew marries a non-Jew. Can I speak lashon hara against that Jew? 100%, as much as I want. Why? Because they're not doing what we call Maisa Amcha. They're not doing the actions of the Jewish people. They're going totally against the Jewish people. So therefore, I can say whatever I want. Whenever I want. I can degrade them. I can take away their livelihood if I wanted to, if I was able to. I mean, that's how bad it is, what they've done. So that being the case, if someone has the status of a heretic, I can say what I want. There's no lashon hara over there. It depends what it is, right? Even if they do it a long time, time after time after time, depends what it is. Someone desecrates Shabbos in public, I can say whatever I want. They lose their status as a non-Jew for many things. If they touch my wine that's not cooked, guess what? I have to dump it. It's the same thing as a non-Jew, right? We'll call it spiritual cooties. Spiritual cooties, right? They do that. There are other things. They have the status of a non-Jew. I can't answer amen to their blessing. Shouldn't answer amen to their blessing. Many things, right? So it depends what it is. Right? I can't say, I can only speak in generality, but, it depends what it is. There are things that are more severe that I can, it wouldn't be lashon hara. In that case, it would not be lashon hara at all. Right? Totally wouldn't be lashon hara. But it depends what it is. Some people say today everyone's got din of tinok shenishba, right? They don't know anything about Judaism, so it doesn't necessarily mean I can do that. There are a lot of levels. In that category, there are a lot of levels. Without going further, someone asked the prohibition of touching a woman other than your wife for rabbis or all male Jews? Everybody, every male. It has nothing to do with being a rabbi or not. If you're a guy and your heart's beating, that applies to you. If you're over the age of 13, right? If you're over the age of 13 in a day, applies to everybody, right? Applies absolutely to everybody. Can a Jewish man shake hands with a non-Jew? That's not a problem. Non-Jewish woman, no. For a guy, not a problem. There are people, I will say that there are, there are holy people, really holy people that will not shake hands with a secular Jew. Whatever, for different reasons. For different reasons. But a non-Jew, what's the problem? What would be the problem if he's a guy, he's not a problem. A non-Jewish woman be a problem, right? A Jew shaking the hand, or even giving even a fish handshake, right? Everyone know what a fish handshake is? It's like the Queen, blessed memory. The Queen, it's like the fish handshake. So some say, I heard everyone say that the great rabbi that, had to, I don't know, got knighted by the Queen or whatever the case was. Not knighted, but I don't know, came in contact with the Queen for whatever it was. Took out her hand, and he shook it with a like a fish handshake. Total fish handshake, but his claim was she's wearing gloves. It wasn't her hand. It was just he's touching the glove. A lot of rabbinic authority is going to say no, doesn't matter. She's touching with glove. You're touching with gloves. Whatever she's wearing doesn't matter. It's her hand. That's forbidden, right? Totally forbidden. So a male touching a female is forbidden. Who's it permissible for? So it would be permissible, person's spouse, when it's not that time of the month, children, grandchildren, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, first cousins, second cousins, removed, not removed, all forbidden. Doesn't matter if they're 85 years old or above. Irrelevant. Right? Again, I got hammered. Someone made a nasty comment under their breath, at a much older relative. Wanted to give me a hug. I took 2 steps back. I mean, okay. What was I supposed to do? Jump in an oven. I don't know. What could I do? Right? I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to. Someone made a nasty comment under their breath. Okay, what are you going to do? I was at a mourner's house. Someone I known for, I don't know, husband died. Someone I known for, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years. You could have been my, certainly could have been my mother, no question. And whatever, we're sitting there. I had my arm on when I was sitting on the sofa. I had my arm on the end of the sofa. And this woman put her arm down there and I just moved my hand away. Now, okay, it's just more, I would say a little more modern, let's say. And she looked at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not allowed to touch you. No matter, she could have been my grandmother, my mother for sure. No question. My grandmother, no. That'd be pretty incredible if that would be the case. But whatever, someone 20, more than 20 years older than me. And that was the reaction. She's like, come on. Like, what's going to happen if I would touch? Okay, there are other people there. I wasn't expecting her to put her arm there or put her hand there, whatever. So I moved my hand. So they're going to say, well, wasn't my point to embarrass anyone. I just didn't want her to touch me. Just what else are you supposed to do? There's no other way around it. She puts her hand there, I have to move it. Or I have to move over, or whatever the case is. Yeah, so, they made a comment. What am I going to do? You're not allowed to finish. Somebody asks, should only a genius non-Jew consider converting? Who's a genius? I don't know too many Jews that are geniuses. I mean, I know a couple here and there, but, most Jews I know are not geniuses. They don't have a genius IQ. I don't care how smart they are. Whatever, they can be very smart. So the answer is no. Only someone who's bright, can convert. No. Person can have average intelligence, still convert. It has nothing to do with IQ, right? It has nothing, but they have to learn. They have to be able to learn. There are a lot of laws they have to be able to learn. Doesn't mean you have to be a genius. It's just a lot you have to learn. Plenty what you have to learn. Over here. That's what I'd say on that. Someone asked who's Baal and Kel. Baal, I don't know what you're referring to. You're talking about idolatry. There was an idol, right? That was they worshiped this idol called Baal, right? It was just idol worship. I don't know what else potentially you're referring to. Somebody asks, is it good for a Jew to divorce a non-Jew in order to get it right? Well, you don't have to get divorced. Let's say a Jew's married to a non-Jew, the non-Jew converts, right? Let's say the non-Jew converts, goes through a proper conversion, then they get remarried. They would have to get properly remarried because a Jew married to a non-Jew is not considered marriage, right? It's not considered marriage at all. So, I mean, the best thing, if the non-Jewish spouse is going to convert, okay. If they're not going to convert, you think the Jew's going to divorce? No, he should. He definitely should. He's over prohibition every time he's intimate with her. Definitely over prohibition. She's not over, whoever it is, whoever the non-Jewish spouse is, the male or female, doesn't matter, right? They haven't done anything wrong. It's a Jew who's done something wrong, right? So yeah, he's got an obligation to divorce her. If she wants to convert, very good. If she converts properly, not for the sake of marriage, very good. If not, then yeah. But, it's interesting that, I know a number of cases where, divorce rate in general is over 50%, right? Or 50%, 60%, whatever it is. You would think, also divorce rate among, let's say, Jews in, intermarriage. Intermarriage also very high, right? Very high divorce rate for different reasons. Right? I know a number of people, Jews married to non-Jews, 35 years married, so they break the stats, they break the statistics in that case, right? But I would say that, to get divorced, no. Sorry. If the non-Jew wants to convert in a series about conversion, okay. They're not doing it for the sake of marriage. Otherwise, yeah, the Jew should divorce. Is the Jew going to divorce? If everything's going good, he's never going to divorce. Nope. Unless something happens. Right? But usually will not divorce, but should, 100%. They should. In either case, the non-Jew has not done anything wrong, and anytime they're intimate, the Jew gets a severe prohibition. So, if that's the case, and that Jew, I mean, I'll tell you how far it goes. The Rambam brings down the laws of mourning. He says, if an evil person dies, you have a schnapps. You should have drink some wine, have some cognac, have some, what do you call it, champagne. An evil person, an evil person dies. There's no question. I can be happy if people die, right? You're not supposed to, one place it says it should be, another place says it shouldn't be. It's the downfall of your enemies, whatever. Right? The point is, the Rambam, in such a case, if let's say a non-Jewish spouse dies, so that means that Jewish spouse is now is no longer married to a Jew. Right? So in that case, yeah, Rambam says, have a schnapps, have some scotch, have some whiskey. Say, what? The non-Jew dies, we'll say the Jew dies. Doesn't matter. Right? In other words, this Jew's not intermarried anymore. It's a huge thing. Huge thing. But what if the Jew dies? What if the Jew dies? No mourning custom. I was married to a non-Jew, let's say. Let's say the Jew dies. Also, should have a schnapps, have some whiskey, have some champagne. It's explicit Rambam. Now, someone will say, come on, let's say you have a sibling. You have a sibling that's intermarried. You're going to go that far? It depends if you like them or not, right? The Rambam says, yeah, no mourning customs. Because they're already outside of being a Jew. Certain things a Jew does, takes them out. Intermarriage being one of them. Doesn't matter what they know, what they don't know. Everybody knows. Every Jew is affiliated with the synagogue knows you don't marry a non-Jew. They'll say, yeah, but it doesn't apply. It's this, it's old, whatever. But they know on the books, yes or no. You have to marry a non-Jew? No. But, no buts. That's it. But there are serious ramifications. Someone says, Could it really be? You're gonna sit there, your sister died. You're gonna have champagne now? You're gonna celebrate? That's what Rambam says. Mourning customs, look what they did. You say, wow, that's fanatical. Yeah, intermarriage is a serious thing. The single biggest problem in Judaism today. I don't think there's any question. Assimilation, intermarriage, and lack of knowledge. It's for nothing. People don't know. They don't know anything. Yeah, someone asks, person slept in tzitzis. You had to say the prayer of dawn in tzitzis during, let's say you slept all night in tzitzis. What do we have them already to skip it? So if you wore a talus, if you wore a big talus, then you won't have to worry about it. Right? If you have a big talus, that would exempt the blessing of tzitzis. Let's say you slept in tzitzis all night. There are some people, as an extra shmir, an extra guarding, they sleep in tzitzis at night. Most people don't. Right? Some people do, but most people don't. Right? So let's say you slept in tzitzis all night. So yeah, you can take them off and put them back on again. Make the blessing. If you wear a big talus already, let's say someone wears a talus when they pray, then you wouldn't have to. Right? In other words, that blessing will cover the tzitzis itself. Someone asks, is that time we should stop chakras or when we wake up? As long as if it's before sunrise, there are certain prayers you're allowed to say. Right? Shmon Esrei, silent meditation, cannot say before sunrise. There's a whole question about the Shema. Also, how early can you say it? But yeah, person gets up, it's already considered sun up, even if you can't see the sun. Right? Let's say. So yeah, you should pray the earliest time you can. Right? If you live in a place, there are different places to go, different synagogues to go. Whatever time they pray, okay, you're gonna find a place. But if let's say you pray on your own, so yeah, when you get up, you get dressed, get yourself together. Yeah, that's the first thing you should do. First thing you should do more than anything else is pray. For a woman also, at least, the very least, she should make her morning blessings if she wants to eat. She could eat, and then, finish praying. A guy should not eat before he prays. Want to drink coffee, make it, wake yourself up. You're allowed to do that. Or water, juice would be a problem. Anything with sugar probably be a problem. Why? Because it's like, you're gonna say, well, I only drink coffee with sugar. Can't drink coffee black. So, so the rabbinical authorities hold no. You should really drink it black at this point. Why? Because if you're putting in sugar and other things, like you're saying, well, I'm into the vanity of the world before I pray to God. What, sugar is the vanity? No, it's something sweet. Right? In other words, it shouldn't take precedent over here. You want to drink coffee to wake up, it's one thing. But but let's say a person want to have juice. You want to have juice in the morning first. No. Shouldn't have, anything sweet. What about orange juice? Maybe orange juice might be okay because it's not so sweet. But something sweet is like you're giving into delicacies before you pray. That's a problem. That's definitely a problem. But you want to have coffee? Usually not. You want to have coffee with milk? Not a problem. That's definitely less of a problem. You want to have tea? Well, if you're English, you'll drink it with milk, right? Usually. If not, no sugar. The way I drink it, right? Tea, nothing in it, just a tea bag. As my Rebbe would say, you're not human. I said, okay, not human. So I said, yeah, but you drink tea with with milk. He says, yeah, I'm English. It's like, oh, I'm English. I said, you can't take the Englishman out of the Englishman. I said, yeah, but you lived in England like 75 years ago. He goes, doesn't matter. I grew up there. I know what goes on there. He drinks tea with milk. Right? I never convinced him. Never even came close. Right? Don't mess with an Englishman. Any case, would he drink tea with sugar before he prays? No. Right? That's brought down. That's brought down according to Jewish law. You want to drink it straight? Okay. You want to have water? Okay. Something sweet? No. Food? No. Definitely shouldn't eat before. If a person, let's say, is diabetic, they have to eat something, whatever. They won't make it otherwise, okay. Right? But again, it's like you're showing that's more important than prayer. Prayer is the most important thing. You do that first. Do these other things first. Can a convert touch female relatives that not have converted? Yeah. If he can touch people that, again, who are the female relatives? A mother, a sister, a child, or a grandchild. They're the same case, right? It's a little bit different though. Why? Because when a convert converts, they have the status of a katan shenolad dummy, right? They have the status of being like a newborn baby. They have the status of being a newborn baby that they're not related. Technically, they're not related. In other words, let's say two brothers are converts. Two brothers are converts. Normally to give testimony, you cannot have two people that are either blemished that they can't testify. There are certain people that cannot testify, and you cannot have two family members testify. Why not? Because we're worried, that they're in cahoots and they're lying or whatever. But what about two converts? We're going to get to these laws soon. Might want to go up north, but we're not there yet. But two converts are allowed to testify together. Why? They're not related. Right? Last year, two people I know, two brothers, had two kids married each other. Cousins. Now they're not related, technically. Now, first cousins you're allowed to marry. Right? In a number of cases that first cousin's married. Not genetical issues, usually. Right? So first cousin allowed to. So I'd always say, tongue in cheek, two cousins get married, save a lot of money. Only have to invite one side to the wedding, right? Very convenient, right? But they're not related. In this case, once they converted, these kids were born Jews. They're not related, right? Because again, someone who converted, someone who converted, they're like a newborn baby over here. So therefore, someone converts, all their female relatives, cousins, aunts, cousins removed, not removed, this, that, niece, forbidden to touch. It's permissible to marry, for a person married their niece. Right? I don't think it's so much in vogue today, but it definitely happened. Mordechai marries Esther, that's his niece. Right? And Yocheved marries Amram. They have Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, that was his aunt, right? Married his aunt, even though, whatever, the whole question about it, but that's on the books, allowed to. Definitely allowed to. Like I said, I don't think it's so common, but it's allowed to. So any female relative, if a guy converts, they're not allowed to touch, again, except for a mother, a grandchild, a child, their spouse. That's it. Right? Whoever a Jew is allowed to touch. That's it. And like I said, over the years, I got a lot of flack. But what can you do? According to a number of rabbinical authorities, to do so, even if it's a fish handshake, is liable for death penalty. You have to die rather than do it. It's one of the three cardinal sins, comes under the sins of immorality. Right? That you have to give up your life for. Immorality, murder, and idolatry. Someone's going to say, come on, it's a blood relative, person's 78 years old, 90 years old. What's the difference? It's forbidden. These are things there's no way around. Now, go explain that to someone, they'll think you're nuts. Okay? Right? Like I said, someone said this to me the other day, and I gave the same answer twice. You can hug my wife as much as you want. Not going to say what the answer was. You know what they say. Well, it wasn't so bad, but at the same time, to be expected. So, you don't win these situations. You don't win. But these are real situations. They come up at work. They come up. You're in line or this. Different things. Different things. That. It's awkward, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Things are awkward. People don't like things. People think you're a fanatic. People, I'll tell you, certain bus lines here in Israel, women get on to the back, men get on the front. So they have to, go past each other and whatever. So someone told me they saw that. They go, haven't they ever heard of Rosa Parks? Right? Anyone doesn't know Rosa Parks is Google it. right? There's a black woman who, refused to, sit in a certain section of the bus or whatever, way back. So it's like there are modesty issues. Now, is that obligatory? No. It's not obligatory, but it saves problems. Saves problems. Men and women don't come in contact. Women are in the back, men are in the front. Could be women in the front, men in the back. Doesn't matter. Right? We're not just saying, oh, women go in the back. Right? But it's much easier. You don't have that confrontation. This is one of the strongest desires given to man. The rabbis knew what they were doing when they made boundaries. Absolutely knew what they were doing. Right? And if you overstep those boundaries, it's a very slippery slope. Very slippery slope. Right? But, you just have to explain. Is what you do. Whatever. And, I've heard stories, women getting harassed, religious women, because, their beliefs and different things. It's hard. Women in the workforce. It's hard. I think it's hard for men in the workforce also. In different ways. Because you let your guard down a little bit. You can't. You got to be like the Rock of Gibraltar. You don't change. These are things. Okay. I've seen many, many times you go to a store, there's a woman cashier. Let's say the woman's religious. She'll put change down in front of you. She won't give it to you in your hand. Some might, but most won't. Also, oh, what? You got cooties? You got spiritual cooties? Yeah, there's a higher awareness. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's a higher awareness. Other people are going to think, what are you, square? You're this. The way the world is to be as prost as you can. Show as much as you can. Be as disgusting as you can. No, who cares? I was in a bus station yesterday and whatever, I was waiting for a bus to come back to Jerusalem. Whatever, these kids, tragic. These kids, I don't know, walking up and down, this and that. They got these girls, 10 years old, 11 years old, no, probably a little bit more. All right, 13, 14 years old. All right, it's pretty warm here in Israel right now. Kind of crazy. It's winter, really hasn't been a winter at all. I'm praying for rain here. But in general, there are some women there, you got to be kidding. You tell me, okay, you're older, this, that. Even at a young age, it's nuts the way people dress. Crazy. Because, hey, Rabbi, what are you doing looking? Well, I wasn't necessarily looking. Right? Could walk right by, yes, be looking at the floor, it's true. But, there's no sense of morality at all. Certainly not. Let me see, there are other questions here. Someone asks, so no, I'm allowed to ask critical questions. Why not? A Jew, non-Jew, ask as many critical questions you want. What's the meaning of the holy Baal Shem Tov's name? It means holy name, right? It means good name. I don't know. What's beyond that? Don't know. Let me see. Somebody asks, how do you judge these two people? One doesn't care if they sin. Others who sin but feel overpowered become the evil inclination. So the second one's a lot easier. Someone who's overcome by the evil inclination, they're working on themselves. Okay. We all fail at some point. Right? So looking at somebody that sins because the evil inclination got them, but they're working on themselves, that's one thing. But one who doesn't care and they're apathetic, so that's we should have sympathy for them. I think we definitely should. I don't think there's any question. But just see how they live. I guarantee I'll probably have 150 stories, after getting back from my trip on what I saw. There'll be plenty of people I'll come in contact with. I shouldn't say plenty, it'd be some. Whatever it is, I don't care about anything. I care about what they say, what they do, how they dress, what you have to say, respecting your opinion, and this and that. I know where they're coming from. A lot of them well-meaning, not necessarily just to bust you, so to speak. But at the same time, I feel bad for these people. People have nothing in their lives. What do they have in their lives? Nothing. Empty. What are they watching? The game show network all day long, going here, going there. They have no life. No, life has no meaning. Say family's important, but like, what are they doing? Like I said, I probably have a lot of stories. A lot of stories like that. So I can say I feel bad for them. They'll say they feel bad for me. Feel worse for my wife. Had so many kids and this and whatever, right? But look, why would you feel bad for me? Right? Someone could say that. Why do you feel? You really feel bad for me? I said, yeah, because you don't know anything. You're missing so much. There's so much out there to learn, to gain, and the most important thing is that they play mahjong, or they play card games, or they're just waiting out life. That's not called life. It's just not called life. If God is everything. Being close to God is everything. And we have trials and tribulations, okay? Sometimes we do good things better, sometimes we do things worse. At the same time, I definitely feel bad for other people. I have nothing. I'm gonna meet, I'm gonna see someone I haven't seen in years and years. Many, many years. I don't know what in the world I'm gonna speak about, but probably about kids and different things and whatever. But but at the end, it's probably nothing. They got zero Judaism wise. Zero connection to God, nothing. I know. I mean, how do I know? I know. So it'll be interesting to see where any conversation goes. But I feel bad. People have been robbed. They've been robbed of their identity based on what their stomach tells them, based on what society tells them, based on, well, I didn't grow up religious. Well, I didn't either. Yeah, I've been learning for 30 years. So there's a lot to learn. It's a lot to change the way we think. But people think, oh, I was born this way. That's why I am, behold, stay in a certain caste system. I stayed this way. Born a slave, I stay a slave. You don't change. That's not Judaism. We go up and down. Do things right, do things wrong. We're a work in progress throughout, 100%. Right? But at the same time, someone is doing things because they're apathetic and they don't care. Yeah. I would, people are going to say live and let live. If they're not going to listen, they're not going to listen. Okay. Maybe I don't have an obligation to rebuke them. But at the same time, one of my personal pet peeves is people talk a good game. They don't know anything. And they're like, wow, I think this. Okay. Based on, well, I saw it in a movie, or I read an article on Wikipedia. See, that I can't respect. That I refuse to, because they don't care. They don't care how stupid they sound. That's even, I've heard people say just idiotic things, totally idiotic things. You think it only happens to me? I know other people it happens to. It's not just me. But people say idiotic things. When you look at them, like, are you serious? Like, someone made a comment. I'll just, I'll throw this off. Someone made a comment, like a really stupid thing. And I said to them, I said, if I were to tell you, you invest money for people. So if I would tell you, I think you invest $10 million in this company that begins with C. You're going to say, why? Because C is my first name. Chaim begins with the letter C. Okay. I said, are you going to give me the time of day? You're going to listen to what I have to say because I just told you to put $10 million on a company you don't know anything about, but it has the same first letter initial as mine. I think you should invest that. You're going to take me serious? Someone said, well, we'd have a discussion. I go, no, we wouldn't. There'd be no discussion at all. You're going to say, okay, very nice, smile and say next. But people make statements, think they don't know anything about, and like, you have to respect it. They're going to say, well, that's going to be your test. You right? Definitely going to be my test. 9 times out of 10, not going to open my mouth because there's no point. There's 0 point over here. You're arguing, it's like someone wants to argue with someone who's got a PhD. Higher and higher and deeper, or Papa has dough. You got a PhD, you want to argue. Based on? Well, I think this, but I have a PhD. I've done all the research. You haven't done any research. See, that's what my soul is doing here. You got to just sit there and be quiet. Because they're not going to listen anyway, but they sound foolish. Absolutely foolish. So see if I have stories about that also. So yeah, someone who doesn't care, they can just say whatever they want. Yeah, I would say that's a little bit harder. Certainly you don't have, someone, let's say like this, someone has the status of being evil. You don't have to judge them favorably. It's no mitzvah to judge them favorably. Just the opposite. Obligation to judge them not favorably. Even someone who sometimes make mistakes, or maybe a lot of times make mistakes, but they're going to the right path. They're doing what they need to do, the best of their ability. Very good. Right? Very good. But, they don't have stats of being someone evil per se. Let's say someone else who doesn't care and they're apathetic and they have the status of being someone evil, I have to judge them favorably? Never. No obligation. I'm not allowed to judge them favorably. Right? Someone who desecrates Shabbos, why do I have to judge them favorably? They desecrate Shabbos in public. There's no reason for me to judge them favorably. In other words, if they're in a situation, if they're in a certain situation and it looks really bad, if they have the status of being someone evil, I do not have to judge them favorably. If it's somebody's working on themselves and they're trying and this and that, so then I have an obligation, even if it looks really bad. Someone else, who says? I feel bad for people like that. They're angry. They don't care. They make fun of you. I feel bad for them. Doesn't mean I won't say anything. I may not say something. Someone said, well, things should just be good. They should be smooth. They should be this. They should be that. Yeah, they should be. If someone's out of line, I'll tell them. Maybe. Probably not. I'll just keep my mouth shut and move on. It depends what it is. But that's what you got to do. It's not worth it. But yeah, it's hard. Because it sort of gets thrown in your face. And it's hard. Should we pray blessing for miracles? Right? Should we pray the blessing for miracles right here as an English guy who doesn't drink tea? No, he drinks tea. He drinks tea with milk. Right? But, I wouldn't say necessarily a miracle, but he's been out of England for 75 years. So it's like, he still considers himself English. Right? Was Sarah also considered a Hebrew or a family father, brother? No. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their families, the Gemara says they were considered Jews before the Torah was given. In other words, they kept the Torah before it was given, whatever it looked like. Everybody else were idolaters. They're all idolaters. They weren't Jews. And many say there's a whole discussion who the patriarchs were they considered Noahites or Jews. That's a whole discussion because you have to look at what they did. Right? If they were Jewish, how could they have done this? How could Jacob have been married to two sisters if he kept the Torah before it was given? Right? That's an obvious question. How could Tamar be with Yehuda? Right? Forbidden. It was a forbidden relationship. Right? There are a lot of questions. So there's a whole discussion. You work your way through the book of Genesis. A lot of questions you have to ask. Well, if they were really Jews, how could they have done this? Or, if they were Noahites, okay. Right? It makes more sense. But there's a whole question. The whole question. They consider Jews? No. If you tell me they kept the Torah before it was given, yeah. Right? But their families, no. Certainly not. How was Esther able to marry the king if she's married to Mordecai? Good question. Question the Gemara asks. So there's a wild Ben Ish Chai. Ben Ish Chai was the darshan of Baghdad. He used to give over Torah to working people, before they would go to work. There's a whole book written about all these homiletic interpretations of, different things in the Talmud. Right? It doesn't have any real practical relevance. There are moral things there, but I don't say practical Jewish law there. Anyway, he's got a whole thing on all these homiletic texts. And one of the things he says is that every time Achashverosh wanted to be with Esther, she created a shindality demon, a demon. So every time he wanted to be with her, she would disappear. This demon, who has, human character traits in many ways, in a number of ways like humans do. So she was with him. She disappeared. Now, Ben Ish Chai has a whole thing. How in the world did she get back? If you want to tell me she left in the Shindala, this demon was there, right? And she disappeared. Very good. So he's got a whole thing how she actually got back. But without getting into that, we'll keep this clean. Basically, it comes out that if Achashverosh initiated the act and she was passive, then that's a different issue, right? In other words, she wasn't an active participant. But the Gemara asked the question, but it's in public. Everyone knows she's married, right? She was married. Let's say she has to give up her life. It's one of the big three, right? Immorality, one of the big three. She should have given up her life, right? The whole discussion. Talmud gives the whole discussion. Commentaries, whole discussion, right? But one answer is she was passive. She's taken against her will. One thing, she's under onus. Even if she's under onus, she can't be active. Can't be an active participant. So if she's not an active participant, she's passive. Again, we'll keep this clean. If she's passive, then different issue. Different issue. There's a story about Yael and Sisera and how she got him all tired out and then she killed him. Right? So that the Gemara says that's what you've seen, a vera lishmo, a sin for the sake of heaven. How is she allowed to be with him? That's another question. All the commentaries ask. She tires him out, so to speak, and then she kills him. How's she allowed to be with him? She was a married woman. How's she allowed to be with him? Right? She should have given up her life otherwise. Right? Okay, there's a whole discussion with that also, but that is the case. Right? That would be the case. That's a simple answer. She's not passive. She's passive. She's under onus. Then that was all right. Otherwise, it would have been forbidden 100%. Right? Would have been forbidden. Right? Someone here asked, I mentioned that before. Was Mordechai the uncle of Esther? Yes. Also, allowed to marry your niece. It's allowed to be married to her. Right? The question is, how is she allowed to be with the king? But see, this whole thing with the Ben Ish Chai is problematic because they have a child. They have a child, Darius, right, who helped rebuild the temple. Right? If you tell me it wasn't hers, and it was really the demons, because demon could have children. Right? The Gemara says demon can have children like men and women, like regular people. They procreate, they do other things, right, etc. And other things they do like angels. But that's one of them. So either you could say that child wasn't really Esther's, it was really the demons, or really that Esther had this child with Achashverosh. Right? But that was the child they had together. Someone asks, what about one of your non-Jewish nephews marries a woman with children? And she and they are not Jews. She didn't touch a stepdaughter. Again, what does it matter? Well, in other words, if it's a non-Jewish nephew, that means this woman is your niece, right? She's your niece, right? That's the way it works, right? She's your niece. They're not Jews. Or let's say she's your niece. Doesn't matter. Stepdaughter, same thing. There's a question I'll ask like this. Let's say a whole family converts. A whole family converts. So you have kids. Can the kids touch the parents? They're not related anymore, spiritually. They have a status of a katan shenola dummy. They're like a status of a child, a newborn baby. So if they're a newborn baby, they're not related to the parents. So they're not related to the parents, how can they touch them? Right? That's the whole question. Right? I think we're lenient. We're lenient in that case, say that they're allowed to. I think that they're allowed to. I have to double check, but I think they're allowed to. Point is that, again, any relationship, stepchild, adopted child would be no different. Adopted child, right? It's not your real child. The same thing. It could be their lenience is there also because it's like your child. So therefore, you can hug them, you can kiss them. There wouldn't be any problem being alone with them. Let's say it's a girl or a boy, whatever it is, right? That might be an issue. That might be an issue. But sure, some will say if they're brought up like that and they're like your own child, then yeah, then they would have the status of your child, even if they're really not. Others would say no, right? But if it's going to affect the child in a negative way, then yeah, then obviously you should show affection and hug them, kiss them, this, that, whatever it is, to show them love. That should be okay, right? That should be okay. But again, anyone else, that's not a mother. Like if you're a guy, it's not a mother, grandmother, daughter, or granddaughter, grandson for that matter, doesn't really matter, right? Those are the women, or sister. Those are the women you can touch. Some say even, at a certain point, shouldn't even touch your own sister, right? Want to give your sister a little bit of a hug, probably could, right? I don't know if it's really done, but in any case, you could, right? Even a sister. That's it. Nieces, cousins, they're related. They come into the family across the board. Across the board, not allowed to. Right? No matter, if they're Jews or non-Jews. No matter. Right? I have girl cousins. They're mostly boy cousins. Right? I have actually third cousin I saw last summer. These girls I didn't touch. I don't think they were so interested in like giving me a hug per se. I never met them. It's the first time I met them, but still, right? They were saw my cousins. It was like a second cousin. My mother's a third cousin, right? I don't know exactly. Whatever. It's my mother's first cousin. This person's father's first cousin, right? So that's second cousin. So whatever, second cousin, third cousin, right? So and his kids. So it's even further. So what? Can't touch them. No matter who they are. Right? And if they're not part of the family, same thing. Right? Wouldn't matter. Let's say you had a maid for years and years and years. Right? A female maid. Can you give them a hug and a kiss? No. But they're like family. So these things apply across the board. I'll tell you a case happened to me. My wife gave birth. Once she gave birth. And my mother-in-law was there, and my kids were younger. I forget which kid it was, but I had younger kids. So I had to have somebody stay over that was older, because we're going to be alone together. But you have younger kids, you're right. Yeah, but even younger kids, not enough. You have to have like someone over the age of bar mitzvah, to stay there. So nothing happens. Because come on, how's anything going to happen? What's going to happen? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There are stories. I'll bring up a proof. Whether it's true or not, doesn't matter. I remember once, many, many years ago, TV was on, someone's watching Oprah, right? They're watching Oprah. So on Oprah had a show. She had a show where a husband divorced his wife and married his mother-in-law. Can't imagine the marital harmony in that house. Right? Divorced his wife, married his mother-in-law. You don't think these things can happen? I think it's strange. Really strange, but okay. It can happen. Right? It can happen. So you don't allow it. No matter how old they are, right? That's the point. Doesn't matter. Totally irrelevant. This is an urge you don't mess with. Bottom line. Doesn't matter. Fish handshake, a little bit of a hug. It doesn't matter. Across the board. If it's forbidden relationship, it's a forbidden relationship. If they're Jews or non-Jews, doesn't matter. Someone asked if there's someone who's constantly judging you, even the smallest thing. Does that mean Hashem is being more strict with you? I don't know. Some people, you're right, everything that comes to us comes through God. That's true. So someone's being nitpicky. Could be God saying, yeah, you got to be better. And let's say the person's being nitpicky, but they're right. Let's say they're right. Right? So it could very well be that God wants you to be better. All continents were formed after the Great Flood. Seemingly, yeah. Yeah, they all came together afterwards. Right? They're all totally messed up and then came together. Somebody asks, first important to know, name the rabbi I learned under. So can you say something about Rav Moshe Sternbuch? What can I say about him? He knows everything. He knows everything about everything. Right? Secular world, he knows a lot, especially about medicine. He once told me it hasn't been a question you haven't thought of, I haven't thought of and printed. Meaning that before I ask him a question, I should look in his books before I ask him. And you're talking about someone who's a Torah giant, the Torah giant of the generation, who had connection to all the great rabbis of the last generation. Rabbi Chanan Wasserman, Hashem Yikam Damo, God should avenge his blood, was a guest in his house when he was a kid. Rabbi Lopian, blessed memory, the Brisker Rav, blessed memory, Rabbi Yechiel Weinberg, the 3-day age, the Chazon Ish, Rav Dessler, the Stipler, Rav Chaim Kanievsky's father, all the Rebbes. Yeah, and he also said he even knows me. Mention all these great rabbis of the previous generation. I won't even come into the crust of their toenails. He's mentioning like this one, that one, all these great rabbis. Then he looked at me, he's like, I even know you. I was like, the Rav even knows me. He's like, yeah, I even know you. Yeah, so I could be here for days. I'm not going to do that, but those are a couple. Those are a couple stories. Is it true the learning Talmud is harder than becoming a doctor? Being a doctor is not easy, right? Anyone's a doctor and studied hard to be a doctor. You have to remember 30% of medical students drop out the first year, another 15% second year. So by third year, a person who's made it by the third year probably going to stick, right? It's probably going to end up being doctors. Being a doctor is hard, right? The difference is, studying Talmud is massive. Medicine doesn't change that much. Medicine is more or less the same. There are innovations here, there. People say it's constantly changing. No, it's not really constantly changing. Certain things, may change here and there, right? But I can tell you, I studied medicine, right? I hated biology, chemistry, whatever I got through, but it's a lot of detail. Biology is a lot of detail. Chemistry, a lot of chemical reactions. How does this do this, that do that? Do the other thing. The difference is that, when it comes to Torah, Torah is so deep, no matter how much you learn it, you see how much you don't know. You can't say that about any other discipline. Can't say it about law. Can't say it about accounting. Can't say it about medicine. Again, I'm not saying it's easy by any stretch. I'm not saying it's easy, right? But at the same time, it doesn't change that much. And the more you learn it, it's okay, I mastered it. Talmud takes a lot to master, a lot. Right now up north, I'm learning laws of testimony. We got whatever. Tomorrow I'm going to finish up something. But there's in one small thing, there's just a lot of detail. Okay, what's the case? What's the case according to this one? What's the case according to that one? Does that mean like this? Does it mean like this? Et cetera, until you get to the practical law, right? And you're gonna say, "Wow, being a lawyer is hard." You're right. I'm not saying law isn't hard. You can master law. You can have things you look up. References, research. Okay. Talmud is thousands of pages. But within those thousands of pages, you got thousands of pages of commentary. Earlier commentators, later commentators, code of Jewish law, how we look at it, what we do. I mean, I don't know if you can compare that to medicine. You can't. That type of knowledge you can't compare. You can't compare. So someone who's got that type of knowledge, let's say the laws of blessings, or kashrus or whatever, there's a lot to know. Okay. I've seen it by a lot of people. They have this encyclopedic knowledge about a lot of these things, but to master laws of damages, you spend years just learning only that, because it's so complex. You're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 7 major tractates of Talmud. Right, one of them is only a few chapters in it, but okay, let's say 6.5. 6.25 tractates. The amount of information is outrageous. It's unbelievable. I shouldn't say outrageous. It's unbelievable how much knowledge you have to have. I remember once, I'll just throw this out there, I had a question. And I saw finally one of the great later commentators asked the question, but my question was based on 6 different factors. I didn't pick something easy I had to give over, but it was 6 different things within the same question. 6 subset questions with all the different ramifications. Well, if you hold like this, and someone else holds like that, and the other thing, you have to see each case, each point, and then bring it back to the original case and see how it comes out. It's a lot of information. I'm not going to say medicine's not a lot of information. It's a lot of information. That's a lot of information, right? I think it's a lot easier mastering that than mastering Talmud. Now, some people say medicine's really, really hard. Okay. I just heard someone talking today, someone who's a someone is a non-Jew. And this person that was like an absolute genius. This person was saying he had a genius IQ. Over 150 IQ, right? Brilliant person. Basic Gemara, he couldn't learn. He couldn't get it. It's not about intelligence, right? It's not necessarily about intelligence, right? It's how to view what the Torah wants, and thinking the way the Torah wants. You're coming from left field. That's why non-Jews don't learn Talmud until after they're Jewish, because the concepts will never sink in. They translated the Talmud into Korean, because Koreans, thought, Jews are so smart, so successful. Well, they get it from the Talmud. What are they going to get from it? Well, they have someone who really knows how to teach them, right? It's extremely complex. It's an English, different language, English, Spanish, French, whatever. So you can understand the words. Once you start asking questions, okay, why do they disagree? Rashi says like this, Tosfos does not say like that. Why not? What are they arguing about? Are there practical ramifications? How does it come out according to the text? These are big questions. These big questions take hours to go through. It's not minutes here. You got to think and then see. Maybe later commentary said differently. The Rambam said differently. He learned like this, and he brought proof, but others reject the proof. Why? Complex, extremely complex. I don't see you see anything like that, anything at all. Someone asked, having sex before marriage prohibited for Noahide as well? No, I was going to bring that up, but you brought it up, so I'll let you bring it up. And that is, why is it not, if it's not a forbidden relationship, it's okay. If it wouldn't be someone they're not allowed to be with, it would be okay. Right? Now, this is one of the things I would say is a moral imperative. As a moral imperative, it's not a good thing. I would say it's definitely not a good thing. Right? It definitely ruins relationships. If you're going to marry the person, let's say, so I have less to say, but let's say it doesn't normally work out that way. Let's say. Right? Watch the movie When Harry Met Sally. Always gets in the way. But I would say, again, is it totally forbidden? No. I would say, is a moral imperative? Yeah. Is a moral imperative is not what a person should do. Are you allowed to? 100%. Unless it's a forbidden relationship. It's not a forbidden relationship, not a problem. Do Litvaks follow Shulchan Aruch or other halachic codex? Listen, Hasidim also follow Shulchan Aruch. Sephardim also follow the Shulchan Aruch. We also follow it, so everybody does. Right? We go like the Ramah, Moshe Isserles of Poland. When he disagrees with the Shulchan Aruch, we go like the Ramah. The Sephardim go like the Rambam. Right? Shulchan Aruch a lot of times goes like the Rambam. Hasidim go like we do. Chabad goes like we do in many ways. Right? So we all go according to the code of Jewish law. Some different this and different things, but for the most part, we all go according to that. Someone asks, their preferred Hebrew accent or dialect for prayer. If you learn Israeli Hebrew, but transliteration, different pronunciations. Yeah. So does it make a difference? So a person has to decide if they're going to convert, they have to decide they want to be Ashkenazic or Sephardic. If they're going to be Ashkenazic, you go according to Ashkenazic and the way you say words for the Ashkenazic. If you're going to go like Sephardic, be like, say it like Sephardic people do, but don't go back and forth. Choose one way or the other. How do I know which way to choose? Can't answer that. Make your own decision, right? But you can choose either way. Someone asks, what if someone's unjustly trying to destroy your reputation? You're allowed to defend yourself. 100%. You're allowed to defend yourself. Right? But again, defending yourself means you can't veer off from the truth. So it has to be for your benefit, for a benefit. It has to be firsthand, and you can't, you have to tell it the way it is. You cannot veer off at all. But you're allowed to defend yourself 100%. Right? Even a court of law. Let's say you came in a court of law, someone accused you unjustly. It's not Lashon Hara here. You're allowed to get to the truth. The other person's lying. It happens all the time. Right? These are the cases I'm dealing with now. Right? The laws of testimony. Someone gives false testimony. You got one group says this, another group says that. Are you allowed to believe any of them? One of them for sure is lying. Right? But let's say it's close enough in testimony that you could uphold it. So it depends. right? Depends. But if someone is accusing you of something you haven't done, you absolutely have a right to defend yourself. It's not Lashon Hara here. You have a right to defend yourself. No question. What are some of his books? Most of his books have not been translated. If you're talking about my Rebbe, it has not been translated. One book is called Ramosha Speaks. That's about different essays on what's it called? Different essays on holidays, moral issues. Another one from Sternbuch on the Parsha, I think, or something like that. If you put in Parsha and Sternbuch, there's things that came out that whatever translation of some of the things he put in Chumash. That's another book. Most of the things are not translated into Hebrew. So why is Vilna Gaon was so against Hasidim? Because Hasidim was such a new thing. They weren't learning Gemara. All they were learning is Musar. So he came out very strongly against them. But today, he wouldn't have too much to say against them because they're also learning Talmud. He was against them. They wouldn't know anything, about Talmud and be able to pass that down because they're only learning Musar. That's why he came out so strongly against them. Why is there a difference? 90% of Ashkenazim and Sephardic, we agree. There are certain customs, different pronunciations, certain things, certain customs from different places. But for the most part, we agree about 98, 99%, of the Torah. There are certain things I don't want to go into, but there are certain things that we differ, but nothing major. Nothing major, I would say. I'm going to stop there. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman or be on Orthodox Conversion to Judaism on Facebook or orthodoxconversion.com. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wishing everybody good beginning of the day, middle of the day, or almost end